Welcome to Shaky Cam Video Diaries. Yep, in this video, well, I'm the bearer of bad news, unfortunately. Last year, November last year, actually before that we stripped the turbo. It was probably about October that we stripped it. In any case, we stripped the turbo and we found that the turbine wheel had been chewed up. After consulting a little bit, we found out that that was as a result of running lean, the previous engine that it was fitted to. It was a used turbo, it was fitted to the S13 200SX. And obviously that ran lean on the CA18 at some point in time. So that TB28 was sent in for refurbishment, and that was sent in December. Now, of course, South Africa is a bit of a funny place because everything shuts down. You can't get anything done in December. I had to wait now until the new year, 2022, January, and the end of January 2022, before I could get just even a quote on it. As is typical, new stock had to arrive, they had to unpack that, had to be loaded in the system, wada. Know the drill, the South African drill. The only thing I'm surprised about is that the system was actually online. Usually that's one of our bugbears, is system offline. Either way, managed to get a quote back. So the quote on the repair, which was a new turbine wheel and shaft, new seal kit, new bearings, and of course a balance, it came into 3,300 Rand. And that posed a little bit of a problem. If you go back and you watch the initial video, and I'll put a link up here somewhere, we stripped it back and we had a whiz and a wheeze about it and said that if it comes in over about 50% of what it costs to replace, we're just going to replace it. So it was a bit of a tough call because the replacement, a GT2860 internally gated with a 0.49 AR, which is pretty much the same as what that TB28 is, it's going to cost 4,100 Rand. So I've managed to talk a little bit and get a bit of a cash deal, and it's going to cost just shy of 3,900 Rand, which isn't bad money, but it's nothing special. It's not a water-cooled turbo, it's not a billet wheel, it doesn't have ball bearing journals or ball bearings, it's just a journal bearing. So it is a entry-level turbo, but it is pretty much a direct replacement. It's still going to match up to the manifold, and I actually think the downpipe's going to be a little bit easier because the 5-bolt discharge flange on that TB28, the one I sent in for repairs, had one bolt that was a little bit off, which means that I would have had to laser cut a flange for it and then craft the downpipe. Either that or go and hack the downpipe off of the S13, use the flange and discard the rest. Either way, I'm on my way now to the place that repairs the turbos and, well, sells new ones, and I've decided that I am going to go with a new turbo. Folks, these are the things that they don't tell you about when you're making or deciding to do a turbo upgrade or a turbo conversion. It's all these little things, and what I'm finding out is it's all the little things that you need multiples of that start adding up. Silicone bends, hose clamps, fittings. And I'm nowhere near a management system or a wideband AFR. So, let's head out there, let's go and grab the new turbo as well as a couple of the fittings that I'm needing so that I can actually just plumb up the oil lines. The reason why I haven't done the oil lines is because, well, I didn't have the turbo with me, it was stalling me. If I had the turbo with me, I'd be able to check what size fittings I need there, and I'd be able to go ahead with the oil lines. Not so lucky. Either way, got the new turbo. I'm still going to have the oil lines made up, but it's going to be a lot easier because I'll have the turbo in my possession. So let's head out there now and hey, new turbo day. Ooh. The budget, she's being blown. And this is our haul. Cost a pretty penny, as we said. You know, the repair was going to cost a fair amount, so may as well get the new stuff and know that it works. All right, this is the big boy. This is the most expensive bit here. We'll get into the other bits in a little while. GT2860. It is a regular journal bearing turbo, doesn't have a billet wheel, doesn't have water cooling, no ball bearing core either. It has a 0.49 AR housing on it, on the compressor side, on the turbine side, sorry, and that should hopefully still spool rather nice on the 1.8 litre engine. It's tidy, it's got an internal wastegate. Some concerns about what the wastegate pressure will be, but we'll tackle that in a little while. So I needed to know what sort of fittings I needed for there. Oil inlet and outlet, of course. And so I've got a couple of odds and ends. Before I get to that though, let's take a look at 5-bolt pattern. I managed to get a flange for it as well, so that'll go on like such, and then I will be able to craft up a, or at least like that. That is the correct way. There we go. That looks a lot better. And then I'll be able to craft up a downpipe that can come out of here. Now, this was a bit of a deciding factor, and this is what I'm a little bit upset about, is when I took the old turbo through to the place where I got all these items, they brought out one of these flanges and it didn't match up. Remember I said that the bolt pattern was all wrong at the beginning of the video? Well, let's get the old turbo up here. This is it. I've just loosely pieced it back together. So one of the bolt holes was out of whack. Turns out that, well, no, it wasn't. And that would have been a massive deciding factor. I probably would have repaired this one had I known that this is, in fact, a standard T28 flange. But the trigger's been pulled and, well, that's what we're sitting with now. All right, so I got the flange as well. I then got a couple of the fittings. So this is a bit of a tricky one to find. This was the last one that they had in stock. And it is a -10 AN bung for going into the sump. So that'll be drilled into the sump. I'll tap into the sump there. And that was also a little frustrating because when I went back to my old parts from the old turbo, it had that union. And silly me, I didn't strip it. It's very much the same thing. It's a little bit smaller, but the internal diameter is the same. And that will mean that I have to draw a smaller hole in the sump. I'm probably going to end up going with that one over this brass one. So that's a little bit wasted. Thankfully, not overly expensive parts. Check your spare parts, folks. Check to see what will work. All right, and then another one that I struggled to get my hands on locally was this union with a 1/8 inch BPNT thread. And this is now going to tap into the fuel sensor, the oil sensor, and I'll be able to pull a oil feed line from this and run it around the block. This other side will get opened up and the sensor will just go in over there. That'll go into the block, that goes into the sensor goes in over there, and then that'll be my feed line, or vice versa, whichever way fits best in the tight confines. Then another part that was a little trickier to come by. Now, aluminium pipe you can get in many places, but these joints are a little tricky. So I got two. I need one for the intake or the idle control valve. My words are failing me here today. And then of course one for the blow-off valve. So I got two of these. These will be placed on either side of the intercooler as such, on the pipes that run down towards the intercooler. So that was a bit of a nice score. That's the yield. Righto, so that is our haul. Those are the parts that we managed to gather together. We're not out of the woods yet, still need a lot of parts, but we'll get there in due course and in due time. I think the next thing on the cards is maybe establishing a baseline. So we're going to take the vehicle around to RBTS Racing and we're going to see what it does in stock standard trim. Keep an eye out for that, that'll be our next video. Thank you very much for watching, take care.